Hey guys, welcome back to the Skywalker Academy and welcome to another episode in Kyrol's Cut Concepts. This one's going to be focusing on the early character designs as well as names for 5 of our main characters for this series. And this will specifically focus on Kyrol, Dasha, Liam, Master Kazina, and Don-Whin. So without further ado, let's get into it. Kyrol went through his fair share of redesigns before landing on the final one. When he was still Jason Zazek, when I still wanted this to be the book of Jason Zazek and all that, he was going to look more like this. He had white and gray robes with a gold cape, and for a long time that was going to be the main design, even in the early stages of the Legend of Kyrol. But after I'd done some more tweaking to the story and kind of set all the plot and stuff, I decided I needed a new design as well as name. I went through a few different names like Zane Kuzan, Zazek Starin, and Asher Fawn. Those were like my 3 that I really liked. Now, I came up with the last name Novak as a spur-of-the-moment idea, and I liked it. It sounded very Star Wars-y, but also unique enough. His first name, on the other hand, I'm a big fan of Lego Ninjago, especially when I was younger. The character Kai was my favorite character, so his name is going to be Kai Novak, which I really liked, and that was almost his official name. But after playing around with it more, I went with Kyrol. It kept Kai in there, but also changed it up a little bit and made it sound more unique. Like, this is a very unique Star Wars character compared to everyone else. Now, having his design his name changed, I had to go with a new design. At first, I had Kyrol look more like this, with shorter hair and hazel eyes, which is more like me. At the time, I had shorter hair and I have hazel eyes. As for his robes, I went for a white with dark tan to make him stand out a bit more from the average Jedi. But I also played around with a darker design, having it be more ambiguous, having darker robes and everything. But I ultimately settled on a more basic Jedi design, something like the brown and tan that you see most Jedi have. It's something I really like, and it's not only does it set him with everyone else in the order, it looks good on him. And now with his design set, I needed his lightsaber. I originally gave him a yellow single-bladed lightsaber, which is more my personal touch, as yellow is my favorite color. But also to help him and Liam stand out from the other Jedi a bit more, with Liam's purple lightsaber and Kyrol's yellow lightsaber. But after more thought, and with thinking of his personality, I realized he's more of a guardian, so I gave him a blue lightsaber, but still wanting him to stand out, I gave him the crossguard design, which is my personal favorite design choice for a lightsaber. And with that design change, his lightsaber forms themselves had to change. He was originally going to be a user of Form 1 and Form 3, but after deciding to use the crossguard design, I decided to go with Jedi Survivor's interpretation of the crossguard, it being a more heavy, greatsword kind of weapon, so he uses Form 5 for his power and Form 4 for speed. And basically after that, he was set. I had my protagonist, and I could move on to the rest of the characters. Now, unlike Kyrol, Liam didn't go through as many redesign changes. The only thing that really changed was his ethnicity and hairstyle. He was originally going to have longer hair, which was like partly in a bun, and I don't exactly remember why I changed it, but I did. As well as his ethnicity, he was going to be white, but I changed that too. Again, don't remember the exact reason. I think it may have just been to make him more distinct from everyone else. Now, as for his name, that's where a lot of the changes happened. He had 3 names going through the rotation. His first one was Skull Ozel, but I felt like it really didn't fit with this version. And after much trial and error, I landed on Pynth Tillian, which was almost his official name. I really liked it. It sounded unique and everything, but while I was writing a chapter in Jedi Apprentice, don't remember which one, I had Clone Wars in the background, specifically the Ryloth arc, and the first part of Ryloth got me interested, so Ryelin, and the more I said it, the more it sounded like a Star Wars name, and as for the first name, I pretty much stuck with Kenth for so long, but then one of my friends came up with the name Liam Ryelin, and after saying it, I'm like, Liam Ryelin. That fits. It's a good name. It's Star Warsy, but it's unique enough to make him unique stand out. And his lightsaber color and lightsaber form pretty much stayed consistent the entire time. Purple was to show the dark side and his darkness within himself. He is a practitioner of Form 5 for the power, but also uses Form 2 for precision when dueling. So yeah, that was pretty much Liam. Ironically, one of the easier ones to do. Now, Dasha Kuvi, on the other hand, I think probably had some of the most redesigns out of everyone. Now, at first, her name was Kara Maors, and had a base design with red hair and green eyes. She was also going to have white and gold robes. It was more of a nod to the High Republic era, but at this time it wasn't set in the High Republic, just a kind of like, this is where the Jedi are kind of leaning towards, and she could have been one of the big inspirations for the white and gold. Now, her personality, on the other hand, she was going to be quiet, shy, soft-spoken, basically the complete polar opposite of what Dasha is now. But eventually I changed her first name to Jaina Maors. I really liked the last name, and with that I gave her the personality we know today, the more outspoken, confident, sarcastic Dasha we know. And the design changed as well, giving her blonde hair and a different set of robes, but it just didn't really fit. But going back to the drawing board, I wanted a more humanoid alien as part of the trio. It's like, just someone in the group had to be an alien, but not like drastic alien. So I tweaked another character's design, which I'm going to get to, and gave it to Dasha, making it her official design. And with the design change, I needed a new name because Kara or Jaina Maors just didn't work right with the design. I don't know, sometimes the design works with the name and so forth. But I was struggling for a long time. Dasha came pretty quickly, but the last name was the biggest struggle. While thinking of last names, I had the Legend of Kyrol on just as background noise, something to try to help me think. And the character Kuvira caught my interest. It's like that name, Kuvira. It sounded interesting. So I had Dasha Kuvira as her name, but that didn't really work. However, I took the last two letters out, Kuvi, and just saying it over and over, Dasha Kuvi, Dasha Kuvi. And like, that has a good ring to it. It sounds like a good Star Wars name. And at that point, her name was set, and her lightsaber and lightsaber forms stayed consistent. Again, all three were supposed to be unique in some way, shape, or form. Kyrol had the blue cross-guard lightsaber, Liam had the single-bladed purple lightsaber, and Dasha would have the double-bladed that could split apart green lightsaber. Well, technically dark green lightsaber. So each one was unique in their own way. I gave her the form Nieman just because you don't really see many Jedi use that form, so it was a nice change of pace to have a Jedi use that form as their main form. And as for her past and everything, that also remained consistent. I wanted her to be the troubled one who had a deep past that she didn't like to talk about, so it gave her a reason to open up to Kyrol, and that was one of her big arcs of Jedi Apprentice, was opening up, finding friends, trusting people, because she couldn't really trust people apart from Master Jot. She really didn't even trust Master Harkin in some sense. But yeah, that was Dasha, and I really hope how you liked her design, and how that process came about. That was probably one of the most fun ones for me to do, just figuring out how to make this character in particular. Now, out of everyone, Master Kazina probably had the two most drastic design changes, because early on, she was going to be a he, and be a Wookiee specifically, and not just any Wookiee, Loporin. Kyrol's master was going to be Loporin. Now this change is actually probably the most simple, and it's a very basic reason. Trying to do back and forth with a Wookiee was hard to write, and just adding in all the Wookiee dialogue was a pain in the ass, so I decided, screw it, let's get rid of that, but I still loved the idea of a Wookiee Jedi and Wookiee Master, so I instead added some backstory where Loporin was going to be Master Kazina's master. So it was just an interesting little dynamic change. Now for her second design was going to be much more different than what we saw, as was her name. Her name was originally going to be Serene Zeke, and her design was basically what Dasha's was. The only difference is she wasn't an Arcanian offshoot. She was an Arcanian offshoot, not a half-breed. And at the time, Serene was going to be the most mysterious of the characters. Like, she was more of a legendary master instead of just a Jedi master. Her robes were going to be white and gold too, not only to complement her look and hair, but also to add more uniqueness to the character. This was changed, obviously I changed her to making Dasha the alien character. And her lightsaber was also going to be different. It was going to be an icy blue color, not only adding to more of her mysteriousness. Like, basically her whole shtick early on was you slowly learn pieces about her past, but you don't know the context behind them. So that was going to be an overall arcing thing early on. Now that ultimately changed just because I felt like I was taking too much away from Kyrol's story and having her be the main character, which on its own wasn't a bad idea, but Kyrol was the main character, so. Now the third design is the one we all know today. It's a simpler design, but still had some uniqueness, like a lighter brown cloak instead of a dark brown cloak. To contrast Kyrol's blue lightsaber, I gave her a green lightsaber, which also fit her personality. She's more in tune with the Force, but she still can kick ass with a lightsaber if she needed to. As for her last name, Kazina was simply a placeholder name, but after a friend of mine suggested the name Shara, I don't remember why they suggested it or what brought up the conversation, but they suggested Shara, and it just fits so perfectly with the name, so I changed her name to Shara Kazina. And at that point, I was pretty much set. I had Kyrol's master, and I was good to go with that character. Now, Don-Whin went through a redesign as well. Before I made him an alien, he was going to be human with dark robes, black hair, beard. Kind of your more typical bad guy, because at one point there wasn't really a mystery of who it was. It was kind of obvious that he was going to be the bad guy. As for his name was originally going to be just Risha, Risha, and said exactly like that. And he wasn't going to be Liam's master. He was just going to be a Jedi radical, Kyrol new kind of situations. Like, he's had run-ins with him in the past, but nothing to the point where he could be the bad guy at the time, but he was. And his personality, he was going to be far more cutthroat and ruthless, like not caring about anyone except his own agenda. But I didn't like how he was turning out, and I wanted someone who was a little bit more sympathetic, like you could understand the motive, but maybe not agree with the actions. And I also wanted him to be more alien and less human, and for that, I kind of went with another personal touch. Wolves are my favorite animal, and I really like them, just like another person in Star Wars. I created my own wolf-like species called the Naki Lobo, which is a play on words. Lobo is Spanish for wolf, and Naka is the name of his home planet where he was raised. Not his ancestral homeworld, that's a different name. But I just did a simple change. Instead of an A at the end, it was an I, so Naki Lobo. And his motivations changed as well. Risha was going to be something more he was after the Jedi's failures in the Outer Rim because he was born in that region, so saw the neglect that they were having. But with his whole personality and everything changing, his motivation changed. to something more personal, since his species was nearly extinct, adding the touch of he learned about the Jedi's involvement in the genocide of the Sith race was kind of his breaking point. He couldn't be a part of an order that did that when his own species faced a similar situation. And at this point, I needed a name change. Don-Whin was a name I had in the rotation for years for Jedi, just like any Jedi, it didn't have to be specifically him. And Zunmink was just something I came up with on the spot, and it just sounded really good. But also, to set him apart from the other masters, I specifically made Don-Whin the battle master of the order at the time. This wasn't meant to be like a massive plot point, it's just something to drive home how skilled of a duelist he actually is, so when Kyrol and Dasha actually fight him in New Horizon, they're really going up against a serious threat instead of just another Jedi. And this also added some more leeway to how he could remain undetected. Because of his position in the order, he knew how to hide his tracks. Until Kyrol, Dasha, and Liam, went on their own, found out who he was. Now, his lightsaber color was orange, because I wanted him to be more unique compared to even Kyrol, Dasha, and Liam. And I do subscribe to the theory that orange is like a variant of the red lightsaber, but it's a more controlled variant, where they use the dark side, but they still remain in the light. They also follow their own path, kind of like Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati. But yeah, that's pretty much Don-Whin. An interesting character who I can't wait to talk about more, because both his past and where he's going is very interesting. Please leave a like if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and as always, may the Force be with you.